Sony just announced not one, but 3 brand new products. It's a pretty big day. I don't even know how I'm supposed to talk about all 3 of these products in one video, but here we go. Okay, so this is the brand new 16-35 f2.8 G Master Mark II. It's 20% smaller, 10% lighter, less stupid zoom extension, but there is still stupid zoom extension. Personally, I wish they just got rid of that completely. Closer minimum focus distance, you can now go to 22 centimeters. That's 6 centimeters closer than you could on the Mark I. That was 28 centimeters. Barely any focus breathing, sharp edges, all of the things that apparently people want from modern lenses, and I find to be a little bit boring, but this is an easy win for me. It's gonna replace my Mark I 16-35 that I use for, I'd say, 99% of this channel, like right now, is on the 16-35. I just realized my black sat. And I haven't had an upgrade to my kit in really a long time, so this is great. Which leads me to these 2 cameras, which I'm very interested in because I'm still using a 3-year-old camera, and I don't think that any new camera has topped the A7S III or the FX3 for my style of filmmaking, and basically everybody I feel like is using the FX3. So what I'm curious about is, can one of these cameras topple the A7S III especially and become my new camera, my new flagship camera that I use all of the time? And the only way to do that is to compare these to the A7S III. So that's what we're gonna do today. The A7C Mark II seems to be a little bit more video-centric. It has a 33 megapixel sensor, 15 plus stops of dynamic range, 7 stops of image stabilization, which I'm curious, are we gonna get wobbles? 4K full pixel readout, no pixel binning, a 7K oversampling. That is interesting to me. We only get 120 frames per second in 1080, but we do get 60 frames per second in 4K, which I think that could be enough for me. I haven't really been doing 120 frames per second that much anymore. It's kind of gotten boring. 10 frames per second for photos, and this is gonna run somewhere between $2,100 and $2,300. And even though this isn't gonna be the high-end A7C, and this is the cheaper one, I'm actually more curious about this one. I feel like this one might be more likely to succeed the A7S III for me than this guy, the A7R, which is basically like a mini baby A7R5. It's got the same 61 megapixel sensor. Actually, I'm not sure if it's the exact same, but it is, both of them are 61 megapixels. 15 stops dynamic range, 7 stops IBIS, 4K 60 frames per second, 6.2K oversampling, and they didn't mention about the whole no pixel binning and stuff like that, and that's why I'm more curious about this for a video than this. This seems like more of the hybrid, full hybrid. You wanna do photo and video, just like the A7R. This is the baby to that. 8 frames per second photos, and this guy's gonna run you somewhere between $2,900 and $3,200. So quite a bit more expensive than the A7 II. But now let's do a full comparison between these 2, the A7 II and A7R, and the A7S III. It's the same as the FX3. Interchange those 2 as much as you want. All right, let's first look at the image. I just added a very simple CST in DaVinci to make these Rec 709. And I'm not sure if this translates on YouTube, but there are some very obvious differences that I'm seeing. As I suspected, the A7CR video quality is much worse. It's very noticeably less detailed than both the A7C II and the A7S III. But the A7C II is by far the winner here in terms of just detail in the image. It's super detailed, whereas the A7S III has less detail, but then looks like it's just been kind of like sharpened in post more so. The stabilization, not scientific in any way, but just looking at it, I think the A7S III does the best job, but the A7C's they kind of look very similar to me. It's hard to tell any differences here. I honestly thought that the A7Cs would have a little bit more stabilization than this, or like be better, but yeah, it does a good job. I just think that A7S III does it better. Back to the image, if we're just looking at the colors, the color rendition on the A7Cs is much nicer, I think, than the A7S III. The A7S III has much more of a green tint to it, especially in the skin tones you're seeing it. The skin tones look super nice on both the A7C II and R, but again, we're missing that detail on the R. It's kind of mushy. It's actually kind of bad that it's like way worse than the 3-year-old A7S III FX3. So in terms of image, I think I'd go A7C II as the winner, then the A7S III, and then the A7CR for video. Slow motion, easy win for the A7S III. The 4K 120 is just so much better than the 1080 on the A7Cs. Then I just did a quick little low light test out of curiosity. Good thing to note here is that the base ISO starts at 800 on the A7Cs, whereas the A7S III and the FX3, it starts at 640. And low light between the three, which is the best low light? Well, that's kind of a tough one to answer in a way. The A7S III is incredible at 640 and 12,800, but horrendous on pretty much any other ISO. Like, look at ISO 2000, it's already so bad. The A7CR is probably the worst here, but the noise is really small because it's got so many megapixels. So that's probably pretty easy to clean up. The A7C II is really good in low light. It's way cleaner at, for example, ISO 3200 than the A7S III. So yeah, very interesting. The A7S III just had such big noise that when you're not on one of the base ISOs, it gets really bad real fast. Before we get to the rest of the features, I thought I'd let you guys know that we have our brand new letter link transitions out right now. I don't know if you guys heard, we started this whole new digital filmmaking tools brand, I guess, company, whatever you want to call it, called Human Video Co. With Tyler, my manager, and our good friend Grant Fletcher, who's just a genius. And these letter link transitions work in every program. They're so easy and so fast to use. Grant's gonna show you just how easy.
Thanks, Matti Thaddeus Bartholomew Haapoja III. Okay, here's how I'm gonna prove to you how easy it is to use these transitions. I am going to install a program that I've never used in my life. I'm usually an Adobe guy, and I am literally installing Resolve right now. Does anyone ever read that stuff? Don't look. Password. All right, let's open it up. I'm nervous. Alrighty. Okay, well, media pool. So I guess that's where I drop and drag stuff. All right, let me just grab some footage that I used in the promo. What do? Do I drop and drag it? Wow, it's kind of confusing that you've got two views, but that's actually kind of cool too. So far, we have just one clip cutting to another clip. So let's spice that up a bit. Letterlink comes in 6 tasty folders. Matti's favorite ones seem to be these faux film ones that I made. So I'm gonna drag and drop this onto the timeline. Now what we have to do is find blending modes in this program. I have no idea where to look. Man, inspector. Ooh, what's this? Ah, it was hidden. Composite mode, great. They're white on black. I would usually use a screen blend mode. There's a difference blend mode, which I've used a bunch. That looks really cool. All right, let's just use additive for now, right? So now when we play it back, so say where that flash is, we might want to just shift this up a little bit so that now that's over the top of the cut. I'm not going to lie, I know everyone complains about Premiere, but so far DaVinci on my machine, and it's a great machine, I must be doing something wrong because it's not playing back as smoothly as Premiere. Someone tell me in the comments below. Don't tell Matti. This is not Matti's fault. He knows everything. I don't, all right? Can you see that? It's playing back super jagged. What am I doing wrong? And that's literally all it takes to flick the switch. You drop and drag, you change your blending mode, and you're good to go. One of the things that I've included is these little color burns. Whoa, that's cool. Check that out. Oh, come on. How cool is that? Yeah, that's fire. I'm happy with that. That's how easy it is for someone who has literally never opened the program before. The sky's the limit on what is possible. Yeah, Matti, you better take over because you know I'll just keep talking. Because you know what I'm like. Right.
Thanks, Grant. That was that was good. Go and check out the letterling transitions. They are literally my favorite transitions that I've ever used in my whole life. I've always felt like these kind of letter transitions weren't quite made for what I was using them for, and these are made to be transitions. They look so good. All right, back to the cameras. We have 4-channel audio. That's awesome, especially because you can record like a lower gain one, so you're not gonna clip and all that. Reframing is pretty interesting. We've seen this on some of the other Sony cameras that have come out, but basically it does like a digital crop and then it follows you around as if somebody is like following you around on a zoom lens, and it works pretty well. It's crazy impressive. Like I was trying to duke it and trick it, and it keeps up pretty well. It's a different look than if actually somebody was turning a camera, but it's a very interesting look. And then I noticed when I was doing those super close-ups with the cameras, the A7C II and R were way better at focusing on the eye that close. The A7S III definitely struggled, and that just tells me that their AI tools and software are getting way better, especially for focus. And I think it's super interesting that finally these camera companies are really starting to take advantage of software tools to make their cameras better, like, you know, iPhones have been doing for so long. The IBIS is kind of interesting, the stabilization. It doesn't seem that stable on the A7C II or R. I kind of thought it was going to be more stable, but at the same time, I'm not seeing any crazy wobbles, and that's like the best thing. That just ruins everything. It doesn't matter how good your IBIS is, if you have crazy wobbles, it's just not usable. So I wasn't seeing any wobbles, and so that's fine with me. It's still really nice and stable, especially in active stabilization, which is like the IBIS plus some electronic stabilization. So if you want it to be stable, definitely use that, but it does crop in just a little bit. Do you think they're trying to do the Fuji thing? This looks a little bit like the Fuji X100V. I feel like they're trying to like ride that wave a little bit, except not fully understanding why that camera is so popular. It doesn't have all the recipe options of the Fujifilm, so this isn't the same, but it kind of looks the same. I mean, it looks cool, I like it. Okay, maybe you're a photographer and you're like, oh, you're super biased, you're just talking about the video, and the A7CR is insane at photos at 61 megapixels. All right, here are 3 photos that were taken on each of the cameras, and I want you to tell me which is which. One is 12 megapixels, one is 33 megapixels, and one is 61 megapixels. Can you see any differences? All right, let's do the reveal. Bam. If you had to, you know, bet your house on which is which, I think it's really hard to tell. I think maybe in some ways the A7CR looks better, but not by like a crazy amount. Now, of course, you can zoom in on that and crop in and do all sorts of stuff, whereas on the A7S III, you're not going to be able to do that as much, but 12 megapixels is still massive. 61 megapixels is just giant. It's like, it's so overkill that you're not really getting that much more benefit here. Now, of course, if you are a photographer first, then yeah, I'll take the 61 megapixels, sure. But for all those people that are looking for more of a hybrid camera, I'm not seeing the huge benefits of the A7CR right now. So one of the downsides is that this actually could be too small for some people, which is a weird problem to have, but this handle especially might be a little bit too small. So the R actually ships with this little like extension grip, which just screws on there. And now you have like this feels much better. Get it tight. This feels much better. This feels more legit. I might actually use it like this. It just feels nicer to hold in your hand. And they even made it kind of smart that you can still take out the batteries. I like that. That's smart. I think the A7CR ships with it, and I think with this one, the A7C II, you just have to buy it. But I think it fits on both. It's really cool. I like it. Solves the problem of it being too small. Okay, so which is the best camera out of these 3? Am I gonna drop the A7S III now? I still feel like overall, if you look at all of the different areas, slow motion, low light, all of that stuff, I still think the A7S III and the FX3 might just be better. But if you take out slow motion and low light, then for video, and probably just as like a both photo and video camera, I think the A7C II here is the winner for me. But if you are a photo first person, then maybe, yeah, the A7CR is the best for you. I don't know. But who really needs 61 megapixels in the end? Honestly, I just think the A7C II is a better overall camera than the A7CR. But of course, I'm a little bit biased towards the video side. So I just think that all cameras can take incredible photos nowadays. And so the differences in photos are so minor. Anyways, this is very interesting. I think I will actually get the A7C II and see how that feels for my YouTube stuff, because I think it might do the job really well. But time will tell which camera I end up using more. All right, that's it for me. Hope you guys have a good one. Bye.